We will open up the Indiana Housing Community Development Authority meeting for October 22nd, 2020. And the first item on our agenda is approval of the minutes. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes?
Motion
Not yet. Andy? Oh, you're making a motion. Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mike. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Our next item is real estate, and we have a number of presentations and recommendations. We will start with Zach Gross, who is going to do the award recommendations for the Indiana Housing First program. Welcome, Zach.
Zach, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
There you go.
Oh, I was double muted, sorry. Good morning. I'm presenting today the recommendation for the Indiana Housing First Program Award. This program was first established in 2017 by the state legislature to provide rental assistance and supportive services to individuals and families with serious persistent mental illness and a chronic chemical addiction, or a serious mental illness with a co-occurring chronic chemical addiction, who are also facing a housing crisis or exiting a treatment program. This program provides Housing First model of assistance where low barrier services and housing are offered to keep people in recovery or on the path to recovery for their mental health or substance abuse diagnosis. On June 15th, we released an updated RFQ and policy manual for this program. We anticipated to award $942,062.59, and we received 7 responses to the RFQ requesting $2.1 million in total funding. And so we reviewed those responses and have a recommendation that's listed in Table A. We are recommending that we fund the 6 organizations listed in Table A. The one application that was not recommended for funding is not recommended based on threshold requirements. The organization submitted a quality response, but the response did not really meet the criteria of the program in serving the designated target population. And we plan to work with Bowden Center and reach out and provide technical assistance if necessary, or as they want to get them prepared for a submission to this program in the future, or possibly a home TBRA submission, as it seems like their kind of focus was on more of a reentry population. So we will reach out to them, plan to reach out to them and provide that technical assistance, and so that they're prepared to submit a response in a future funding round. There, and pause for questions.
Madam Chair, we can't hear you.
I'm sorry. If there are no questions, are there any questions for Zach? If not, I will entertain a motion, or no, I think we're ready for your resolution, Zach.
Okay. Staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolution. Resolved that the board approve an aggregate award of Indiana Housing First program funding in an amount not to exceed $942,062.59 to the 6 organizations set forth in Table A as recommended by staff.
Board, we have a resolution before us. Is there a motion for approval?
Madam Chair, move to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Zach. And I believe you have our next presentation, which is the Home Tenant-Based Rental Assistance Award recommendation.
I do. Thank you. So moving right into the home tenant-based rental assistance program. So this program is somewhat similar to the Housing First program in that it provides shorter term rental assistance. And this is a eligible activity under the home federal funding source. And this program is targeted towards individuals who are exiting correction system or who are previously involved in, who are previously incarcerated and are now either homeless or at risk of homeless due to lack of stable housing as a result of incarceration. So this program, we released a final policy manual and RFQ in June 15th, and we received 4 responses requesting an aggregate award of $1.2 million, and IHCDA has a total of $1.2 million available for allocation. We increased the amount available for allocation under this program. We increased the award amount available for allocation for this program to be able to fund all the quality responses that we received. We received 4 very high quality responses. And so those are listed in Table A. So staff is recommending that the board approve the $1.2 million to the 4 organizations set forth in Table A, and 2 of which are new recipients. That would be Community Health Network Foundation and actually just one, Community Health Network Foundation is a new recipient, would be a new recipient under this program. I'll stop there for questions.
Any questions of Zach? If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Zach.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Our next item on our agenda is the 2020 rental housing tax credit general set aside moving forward 2020. Evan Thee is making that presentation. Welcome, Evan.
Thank you. Good morning. Can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Yes.
Perfect. So yeah, as mentioned, I'm here today to present recommendations for the Moving Forward 2020 program. To start things off with a quick background on the program, since 2016, IHCDA has dedicated the general set aside 10% of our annual tax credit ceiling to the Moving Forward program, a program that uses a systems approach to take on challenges that face our residents and our communities, taking a critical and innovative look at different subjects such as finance policy, built environment, utility systems, transportation, and quality of life. Ultimate goal is to really allow residents to obtain housing and transportation at the lowest total cost of ownership. To dive into the specifics and the process for the Moving Forward 2020 program, in the state of Indiana, there is a strategic mission to push for providing housing opportunity and choice for individuals and households of those with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So often members of the IDD community are restricted to where they're able to live based on their ability to obtain services and supports necessary for that individual and family in order to achieve the highest quality of life possible. So in response to this need, since 2018, IHCDA has partnered with FSSA's Division on Disability and Rehabilitative Services to create the community integration set aside in the QAP, where developers commit to setting aside up to 25% of the units at a tax credit development for IDD households. Along with setting aside those units, they then partner with a local service provider who will then work to refer IDD households to the development, as well as coordinate services for both those living at the development and those who are interested as well. So to expand upon this model, last year IHCDA partnered with DDRS again, but this time to take a more detailed and pragmatic approach to not just providing the affordable housing to the IDD population, but to take a critical look into affording these households the opportunity to achieve independence and autonomy within the community of their choice. So to do this, we really wanted to focus on accessible design, smart home technology, adaptive technology, positive health outcomes, transportation, as well as workforce opportunities. So IHCDA on August 5th of 2019, we released a competitive RFP for 2 developers to produce their vision for providing integrated affordable housing for persons with IDD by utilizing innovative technology to improve quality of life and independence. So as part of their response, respondents were required to identify an innovative aspect within their proposed development. Along with that, they were tasked with assembling a development team with team leads who are some are experts, some are sort of novices in those different subject matters. And you'll see more in your board packet, I believe on page 7, as well as kind of the listed requirements to that RFP and the qualification. In total, we received 7 respondents. All 7 respondents were then invited to IHCDA to present their qualifications to an assembled selection committee comprised of individuals whose professional careers are focused on serving the IDD population. Shortly after the presentations, we then announced the 2 selected teams, Inglewood Community Development Corporation in partnership with Noble, Indiana, and then Old Town Companies, they're partnering with Village of Marici. Shortly after the team selections were announced, we then invited both teams to participate in an innovative workshop that was held this past January in the Fisher's IoT Lab. And over the course of the 2 days, our partners on the Moving Forward Program and Energy Systems Network, they brought in subject matter experts from around the country in finance and policy, accessible design, technology, the built environment, transportation, and quality of life. And over those 2 days, we took the team's original proposals and really worked to develop and build upon their original design concepts, and along with setting minimum and stretch goals. So immediately after the workshop, IHCDA and ESN then began monthly calls with each team discussing many topics and strategies, ideas and timelines and best practices, as well as trying to tackle any challenges they may be having. Occasionally, once a quarter, we would convene both teams, kind of a collaborative call for them to just get together. And then we would also bring in DDRS and other stakeholders to the population as necessary to provide critical support as well as feedback on their design concepts. So along with the many calls and many steps along the way, even despite the pandemic, the developers have been working to assemble and submit their individual applications to IHCDA in June and July, respectively. Following submission, the tax credit apps, the review committee completed reviews for each application under the 2021 QAP, checking for threshold completeness and scoring, providing threshold letters to the developers, and then allowing them to respond to clarifications. Upon our completion of the due diligence process, it was determined that both developments did meet the 2020-2021 QAP criteria. As you will see in your board packets, we provided both development project funding summary sheets that really outlines a lot of details about the developments. To highlight just a couple of the handful of the amenities for both projects, the North End project is located on the northern part of Carmel with direct access to the Monon Trail. They'll also, in amongst there being affordable housing units set aside for the IDD population, those are set aside in amongst 128 market rate units to again create that integrated mixed income development that generally you don't see very often in affordable housing. So we're really excited about that opportunity. And then besides that, this project is a master plan community with various components. There's going to be single family houses, townhomes, office and retail space. A couple other amenities that will be on site to residents. There will be a community building with a collaborative space and a pool which will be open to all residents. There'll also be on-call transportation. And then one thing that I thought was very thoughtful on this project was they dedicated a pickup and drop off area on site with 3 residential buildings. It could be a little tricky to navigate for both partners and for the residents to find a common area to pick up. I think will both be safe and helpful. They'll also have a farm to table restaurant on site. in which will provide an integrated employment training opportunity for residents. And they'll obviously have technological pieces that'll be customized to the individual needs of the residents. For the Passage project located on the east side of Indianapolis on the former overflow parking lot of the Angie's List campus, they have 8 units set aside out of the 39 units at the property for the IDD population. They'll have a portion of the commercial space will be an integrated career center in partnership with Noble, Indiana. They also will have 5 Airbnb units, which will allow for an integrated employment training opportunity as well, and that'll be open to the community. They'll have community room, art and physical therapy studios, an art gallery that'll be open to the public. They also plan to have community garden with raised beds for accessibility. And then both projects will actually have solar panels on site to offset energy consumption for the community and commercial spaces. And it's similar to the Carmel project, they'll be utilizing assistive technology to help individuals gain independence. So finally, one thing I'd like to mention, both teams from day one have been forward thinking in how they engage and include the IDD population and key stakeholders through this process. I'm really trying to learn from the residents, potential residents, as well as the community. Passage has held listening sessions alongside their partner, Noble, Indiana, with individuals, families, and advocates. North End Apartments, they're currently working on creating an advisory board that'll be long going, that is going to be tasked with providing oversight onto the property, as well as trying to make sure that there is equity and legitimacy to the process and the overall development for the residents and everybody in the community. So in terms of today's recommendation, staff recommends the approval of the 2 reservations for LIHTC and development funding as outlined in Table A. $950,000 in LIHTC and $500,000 in development fund to both projects. And at this time, I'd be glad to answer any questions anybody might have.
Any questions? Let me just say that, Jake, I am so proud of you and your team for, taking on the challenge of providing housing for those Hoosiers who have an intellectual developmental disability. I think it's extremely commendable, and it certainly is ensuring that those Hoosiers have equal opportunity in life to succeed. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. And are there any questions by the board? If not, Evan, do you have just one resolution?
I do have just one today.
We're ready.
Okay. Staff respectfully requests board approve the following resolution. Resolve that board approve an aggregate award of 9% LIHTC in an amount not to exceed 1.9 million to North End Moving Forward LP and Passage LP, and an aggregate amount of development fund funding in an amount not to exceed 1 million to North End Moving Forward LP and Passage LP as set forth in Table A as recommended by staff.
Board, we have a resolution before us. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Madam Chair, I recommend approval.
Second.
June.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Evan.
Thank you.
Our next agenda item is COVID-19 CHDO. How do we say that? Chodo?
Chodo. There
Chodo.
you go.
Chodo. Okay.
Megan can tell us how to say it.
Hello, yes.
Chodo, COVID-19 Chodo operating supplemental funding, and Megan will be presenting. Thank you, Megan.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm here to present a recommendation for a COVID-19 Chodo operating supplement award. This presentation is a continuation of last month's recommendation and approval of 10 other awards. I'll just start off with a quick background. The Home Investment Partnerships or HOME program provides funding for the construction and rehabilitation of affordable housing for low and moderate income residents. HOME funding can also be used for capacity building activities for community housing development organizations or CHODOs. CHODOs are IHCDA certified. They are not-for-profit housing organizations, and they do meet certain home regulations and are eligible to receive home operating supplement funds. Normally, a CHODO operating supplement grant can only be awarded in conjunction with an approved home activity for a maximum of $50,000 per project and $50,000 total per program year. Supplement funds can be used for reasonable operating costs, such as salaries, benefits, training, travel, etc. On April 10th of this year, HUD released a memo providing guidance on statutory suspensions and regulatory waivers meant to enable participating jurisdictions affected by COVID-19 to use home funds to address immediate housing needs as well as to help prevent the spread of the virus. This guidance did a number of things. Firstly, it increased the amount of CHODO operating that a PJ could set aside from 5% of its annual allocation to 10%. And then it also waived the two requirements, the $50,000 CHODO operating supplement funding limit, as well as the requirement that CHODO funds be awarded in conjunction with a home project under the 2019 annual action plan. IHCDA then held a public hearing on the proposed changes on May 20th of 2020, and we accepted public comments between May 15th and May 22nd. We received no public comments. Nonprofits and CHODOs were interviewed on our Rural Road to Recovery plan in August 2020, and they actually discussed the need for additional administrative funding to assist with changes in how their services were conducted due to COVID-19. IHCDA then amended the 2019 annual action plan to increase the amount of set aside funding for CHODO operating supplement. On June 29th, we began accepting applications for supplemental funding for eligible CHODOs. They could request up to $50,000 in COVID-19 supplemental funding. The deadline for the applications was August 10th. For those that were previously certified in the last home round, they just needed to submit an affidavit to certify that nothing had changed and that their organization continued to meet all CHODO requirements. And then for those few organizations that had not been previously certified in the home round, we did require them to submit the full CHODO application. We then reviewed all documentation to make sure that those nonprofits met all federal CHODO requirements. We received a total of 11 applications. Of those 11, we recommended and the board approved 10 applications last month on September 24th. The remaining applicant did submit all of their documentation on time and by the deadline, but they just needed some additional time to finalize all federal CHODO requirements. Following these few adjustments, IHCDA staff now recommends the additional applicant, High Performance Government Network, or HPG Network, to receive CHODO operating supplement funding. You can see in Table A, High Performance Government Network, as well as the request of $50,000 and their service area. And our recommendation is the approval of awarding home CHODO operating supplement funding in the form of a grant not to exceed $50,000 to HPG Network. I'll now take any questions that the board may have.
Any questions for Megan? Megan, I believe we're ready for your resolution.
Staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolution. Resolved that the board approve home CHODO operating supplement funding in the form of a grant in an amount not to exceed $50,000 to the applicant as set forth in Table A as recommended by staff.
Board, we have a resolution before us. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Move for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Megan.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Our next item is the Home Community Housing Development Organization Pre-Development Loan La Casa of Goshen, Inc. Woo! Samantha
Yes.
making that presentation. Thank you, Samantha.
No problem. Well, good morning. So to give us some more alphabet soup, Under the home regulations, HUD allows for PJs, participating jurisdictions, those entities that receive a direct allocation of home, to set aside up to 5% of its funding that has already been allocated toward CHODOs, or community housing development organizations, to be able to provide what HUD calls CHODO pre-development loans. The regulations actually define two types of loans. So the first are what are called site control loans, which are really available for CHODOs when they are looking and considering sites for potential home projects, but do not yet have site control. And then the second are called seed money loans, which could be available to CHODOs once they have site control to help cover pre-construction costs. Under IHCDA policy, the maximum any eligible CHODO could request for either loan per project is $30,000. So the IHCDA accepts applications for the CHODO pre-development loan on a rolling basis up until that funding is no longer available. We do review each application to ensure that all proposed costs are eligible under the home regulations, and then subsequently that the organization does meet those federal CHODO regulations. So this project, La Casa of Goshen Incorporated, was selected as one of 3 teams through a competitive request for proposals through the Home Innovation Program this past January. La Casa, as well as the 2 other teams, completed 4 months of targeted training and technical assistance. They are now eligible to apply for up to $1 million of construction financing through the IHCDA's Home Buyer Program to support homeownership development within Elkhart County. Currently, La Casa is evaluating 9 potential parcels, which are outlined in your board memo, to help develop 9 units for purchase, up to 80% AMI, in both the cities of Elkhart and Goshen as part of their first phase of this initiative. La Casa is requesting the CHODO pre-development site control loan, which will help assist them in funding architectural, engineering, and consulting fees. The consulting fees are really to do an environmental study and put borings into the soil to test and help determine the development feasibility of these parcels in preparation for an application to IHCDA. As per our policy, the interest rate on this loan, as with all of our CHODO pre-development loans, is 0% with a repayment term of 24 months. That loan may be repaid from a construction loan or other project income. Per the home guidelines, if La Casa or another CHODO who is awarded these funds have a project that does not move forward through no fault of their own, but actually through the due diligence of having the fund, IHCDA at our discretion could forgive that loan. I will say that we've not had that happen before, but we do have that option. So with that, I'm happy to pause and take any questions.
Board, any questions for Samantha? Samantha, we're ready for your resolution.
Super, well, thank you. Staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolution. Resolved that the board approve home funding in the form of a CHODO pre-development site control loan in amount not to exceed $30,000 to La Casa of Goshen Incorporated as recommended by staff.
Board, we have a motion before us. We have a resolution before us. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Madam Chair, I move to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries. And Samantha, I also believe you'll be presenting on the Home Buyer Award recommendations, Habitat for Humanity of Greater Fort Wayne, Inc.
Yes, thank you. So IHCDA has had a at-home buyer funding round open since April 1st of 2019. IHCDA's homebuyer funding is available to both nonprofits and units of local government with applications selected or accepted, on a rolling basis. And applicants may request up to $500,000 per application. So on May 11th, we received an application from Habitat for Humanity of Greater Fort Wayne for the development of 1 unit for purchase in Huntington. IHCDA staff checked the application for completeness, determined whether all threshold requirements were met, and scored the application. The application did meet all threshold requirements and scored competitively to be able to be considered for funding. I do want to note that this is our 16th home buyer unit we've been able to fund since April of 2019. And we'll have more units hopefully under construction next year with our home innovation round, which is really exciting. And so with that, I'm happy to take any questions from the board.
Board, any questions for Samantha? Samantha, we're ready for your resolution.
Great, thank you. Staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolution. Resolve that the board approve a home buyer award in the form of a grant in an amount not to exceed $40,000 to Habitat for Humanity of Greater Fort Wayne Incorporated as recommended by staff.
Board, we have a resolution before us. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Madam Chair, move to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Samantha.
Thank you.
Our next item is Creating Places Program Funding and Delegated Authority. We have Ryan Hamlet, who is going to be presenting. Thank you and welcome, Ryan.
Good morning, board. I'm Ryan Hamlet. Can you hear me? We good?
Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent. I am the Placemaking and Environmental Review Manager for IHCDA, and I'm going to provide the annual update for the Creating Places program, and then also at the end request a reallocation of development funds to extend the program into its 5th year. If we were meeting in person, this would be the part of the show where I would subject everybody to a PowerPoint, but since we can't do that, I would ask if you could refer to your board packet starting on page 25. I'm just going to run through a few quick things to update you on 4 years of Creating Places. Just a quick review of the program. It was launched in the fall of 2016 in collaboration with Patronicity, our partner in Creating Places. Creating Places combines a kind of classic crowdfunding platform with a matching grant. And so for a project, let's say that is got a $20,000 budget, they'll raise $10,000 through crowdfunding on Creating Places. And if they meet that goal, IHCDA will match that $10,000. Applicants work with Patronicity's Indiana Director, Bridget Anderson. They hone their project, they develop their fundraising page, kind of craft their marketing approach. And if they're successfully awarded, they have 1 year to complete their project. And that's an important thing so that people can actually see the money they give go into action. And so moving on to the next page, this data is from when the board memo was due. And so rather than confuse things by giving you updated data, I'm just gonna kind of go through this and maybe update a couple things. As of the 6th of this month, we had 109 completed campaigns, 103 of which were successful. We're actually up to 111 campaigns and, nope, that's not correct. This morning we had 111 completed campaigns and 105 were successful. So we have just a little under a 95% success rate for campaigns that go through. Those projects have received about $4.1 million in crowdfunding from donors, and IHCDA has then granted those projects a little over $3.5 million up to this point. Those projects have also leveraged over $13 million in project funding. So many of these projects are bigger budgets and we're the last money in the door. So we're really kind of leveraging money through projects and we're getting IHCDA's dollars worth. We've got a grant ratio of every dollar that IHCDA grants. We have a total private investment of about $5. And so that's really moving some money around the state to do some impactful projects. Moving on to the next page, there is a map to show how this has been spread. And again, this is from the 6th. Dark areas or dark counties show those 3 counties are areas where we've had many projects. And anything that is white is places that we've not been yet. So we've been in 50 of 92 counties. This coming year, it's Bridges and my goals to get into those areas that we've not been to yet, including some underserved kind of metro areas. Muncie, we actually have a couple projects coming in the door right now, but Lafayette, Kokomo, Terre Haute, places like that that we're really targeting this next year. There is, moving on to the next page, it would be remiss not to kind of talk about how Creating Places has been affected by COVID. This is a public spaces program, and so public spaces is definitely going to be affected by a pandemic. In April, we put the program on pause for a little bit to kind of reevaluate how we were going to approach things. Relaunched the program in early May, and one of the things that we've been doing is having conversations with program partners about maybe some complications with fundraising during a time of economic complication, while also asking them to take extra measures to follow the governor's back on track plan. And so we've asked that projects have signed MOUs to their contractors, and the various people using the thing are safe, and the public feels good about actually putting their money into these programs. On the next page, here's the first project that launched after we put the program on pause. It is the Stark County Veterans Memorial Plaza in Knox, Indiana. They just blew their fundraising out of the water. They raised $65,000 of their $50,000 goal. They launched a Memorial Day, and they're going to have a ribbon cutting on Veterans Day, which was a really that was their target to do, and they've done both of those things. The next slide kind of is a sum up of what has happened since we've relaunched the program. We've launched 16 new campaigns. As of the 6th of this month, 9 of those campaigns had completed and 8 of those had been successful. And those include the Arcadia Splash Pad, which was our 100th successful campaign, which is a nice centennial milestone, and the Monticello River Walk Plaza, which raised double of their fundraising goal. And so they added some stretch goal things to really stretch out their project and get their money's worth for that community. And then the final slide are 2 things that I just kind of wanted to highlight. One is a project that is actually completed. The Harrison County Adventure Walk, I think, was a very impactful program. Very early on in COVID, it allowed people in Corydon, Indiana and Harrison County to get out of their homes and utilize their trail, the Indian Creek Trail, and it allowed families to check out backpacks full of nature guides and binoculars and things to walk along the trail and learn about their nature, which was really important at that time to kind of maybe break the cabin fever everybody was feeling. And then secondly is a project that actually just launched. It's currently in its fundraising. The Richmond Farmers Market project in Richmond, Indiana. They have a plan to winterize the Star Gannett building, which is a historic building, a part of their old record pressing industry. And so they're going to turn that into a winter's farmers market. And I think that's also pretty impactful as far as things go right now. I think from this point on, I'll just mention a quick some of the TPIs that we are looking at as far as following this program. Key performance indicators. Moving forward, we're tracking the localities that are applying for project funds and really trying to target regions and communities that haven't been funded or benefited from this program yet. One of the things that we've been doing is kind of tracking project extensions. Projects can request to have longer than 1 year to complete, and there have been certainly some projects this year that have asked for an extension because of COVID, and so kind of tracking how COVID has affected those programs, and tracking the total private investment of each project, as well as the overall campaign success rate for projects launched on the Patronicity website. But I've been speed talking for a little bit, so I'll pause right now and allow anybody to ask any questions if they have any.
Board, any questions for Brian?
I have one.
Good.
Can you hear me all right? Okay. In the counties where you've had a lot of success, what do you attribute that to? Has it been the same organizers of multiple projects, or what's the reason that you think?
Well, I think obviously Indianapolis has an advantage where they have a number of organizers, whereas maybe other counties haven't. So that's kind of an outlier. But I would say that the counties that have had a great number of success, they have had very impactful organizers. And so Wayne County is maybe a county that you wouldn't expect to be at the top of the list of places that we put a lot of resources into, but they have some incredible people that are doing some great things. And so basically, they've gotten the ball rolling as far as fundraising goes, and their community has understood that what their dollars are doing and how quickly it's happening. And so they're able to kind of come in as soon as they finish a project with another thing, because the community has seen how their money has actually worked. And so Bridget and I, one of the things that we plan to do this year is to try to get in some of those communities and work with some people that we've not talked to yet. One thing that might be worth mentioning is some of those communities that we haven't put money into yet, the Terre Hautes, the places like that, doesn't mean that we haven't heard from them and they haven't tried to develop a project. It just may not have been the right time, and that project just hasn't kind of come to fruition yet. So there's been some nibbles in some of those areas too, but we'd like to turn those into bites and actually get some projects moving there too.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's such a great program, and I'm just impressed by the success rate that you have. It's just a really great thing for Indiana to have.
I agree. Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Ryan, you have 2 resolutions, I believe. Is that not correct?
I do. My recommendation, staff recommends the following: that the board authorizes the IHCDA staff to take all actions necessary to approve the allocation of the crowdfunding grants, provided that the board is informed of all crowdfunding awards on an annual basis, and that the board approves the allocation of development funds in forms of grants not to exceed $1 million. And so you were correct. I've got 2 resolutions real quick. I'll read the first if that's all right with you. Resolved, I'm sorry.
Yes, please.
Resolved, the board authorizes IHCDA staff to take all actions necessary to approve the allocation of the crowdfunding grants, provided that the board is informed of all crowdfunding awards on an annual basis as recommended by staff.
Board, we have a resolution before us. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Motion for approval.
Second.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries. And we're ready for your second resolution, Ryan.
Thank you. Resolved that the board approves the allocation of development fund funding in the form of grants in an amount not to exceed $1 million as recommended by staff.
Board, we have a recommended date or a resolution before us. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Madam
So
Chair, I
moved.
move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
And now our executive update by Jake Seid. Welcome, Jacob.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. First, I just want to say thank you for approving all of the recommendations today, but specifically creating places, that investment, and obviously the impact it's having. But also with your trust in allowing us to have an approval process that we use that allows us to really work with these communities and approve their campaigns almost within 24 to 48 hours once they meet all the criteria. Because as we've noticed, this is these programs are ready to go, and these campaigns and the excitement that is there in the community, and so we're able to continue to support that excitement with being efficient in how we approve our creating places applications that we receive, thanks to Ryan and our partnership with Patronicity. So just thank you for actually approving the process that we use, because that really does go a long way in making this a really successful program. So a couple of updates that I'd like to provide the board with related to the CARES Act. The first one at last month's board meeting approved the Emergency Solutions Grant allocation, and one of those activities that's eligible under ESG is the Rental Assistance Program. And so we began accepting applications last week at the indianahousingnow.org website. And as of this morning, actually, we've received about just over 7,200 applications with that. We have paid about $1.8 million to landlords directly in assisting about 538 renters. As part of last month's board approval, approved the executive director to provide additional awards as the dollars and the applications came in. And as of today, we haven't taken any action on that executive delegation authority. So there is no update on that piece. And obviously that is approved until December 30th of 2020 of this year. So, but I don't have any, we haven't taken any action, so there is no update on that. Regarding the COVID-19 rental assistance program, we have paid just about $24.7 million directly to landlords, and have assisted about 12,800 renters with the COVID-19 rental assistance program that we're continuing to work through and process applications with our renters and our landlords on that program as well. On our hardest hit fund from April 1st through October 8th, we have approved 386 applications for homeowners that need their mortgage payment assistance. We've provided just around $4.9 million from April 1st to homeowners who need mortgage assistance to prevent foreclosure during that time. The tax credit round, which is not part of the CARES Act, and I should say also the hardest hit fund is also not part of the CARES Act. But as you may be aware, we did have to delay the application deadline for the 2021 tax credit application round, and we pushed it to September 18th when applications were due. And on the 18th, we did receive 51 applications. And so I also just want to, that also changed the timeline in which we were planning to make recommendations to the board for the tax credit round. But so we're planning to make those award recommendations on the February 25th at the board meeting in February. So just an updated timeline on where we are with the 2021 tax credit round as well. So that's basically my update for this month. Just a reminder that next month's board meeting is the third Thursday, so that'll be November 19th, which is a week earlier than normal due to the holidays. And then this will also be a virtual meeting as well. So, Madam Chair, that's my update. I'm happy to take any questions or feedback from the board.
Any questions or comments for Jake?
Just comments. I think it's amazing how many of these applications you guys have taken care of and funded. I mean, when you think about $24.7 million, that's not changed by any means. I think you guys are doing a great job.
Well, and is there anything?
Thank you. I know the team is working round the clock on all this, so they're doing great work.
That's great.
And Jake, I know that it's probably been exhausting for them. Is there anything we as a board can do to kind of show our appreciation or be, you know, supportive or let them know what a great job they've done?
Yeah, definitely. I know they would appreciate any, you know, occasionally we do get a positive, a landlord or a renter reaching out to us and sharing what it means, how we directly impacted some folks' lives. And I know the team loves to hear those types of feedback. And so, yeah, if there's any time the board wants to have, you know, just recognize the team that's doing all this. I think at one point we had close to probably 65% of the entire agency committed to the rental assistance programs. So very, you know, we're all in on this and have been since day one. So it's not just a couple of staff people. I mean, this really is a true agency effort to pull this off and what we're doing.
Can we individually send emails to you and you can make sure that they're distributed, or board members, we want to do something as a board and have Jake share that with his employees?
Yeah, I'm happy to relay any information or items, anything that you'd like for us to do.
Board, should we do like a motion to perhaps instruct our executive director to let the let his employees know how appreciative we are of their efforts in serving Hoosiers through the rental assistance program during this very trying COVID time.
I would move accordingly.
Mike Schottmeyer's moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Andy seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Aye.
Thank you. Jake, do you want to draft something up on behalf of the board, or would you like us to draft something up? What's your pleasure?
Sure, we can, we'll work on something here, and we'll follow up with the board and present it to the board here in a week or so, a couple weeks. Yeah.
Okay, and then you'll share it with your employees?
Yes, yes.
Thank you. Is there any further business to come before the board at this time? Well, I just want to say thank you to our board members for your patience and, you know, as we kind of maneuver these, again, exhausting times. Everyone's tired of Zoom, and we look forward to the day when we'll be in person. But in the meantime, we'll work to stay safe, and that means our next meeting on November 19th will be virtual, I presume, Jake?
Yes, the next board meeting will be virtual again. Yes, so look for an email from Brian Phillips that shares with you the login information.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, opposed? Wonderful. Thank you, board, and we will see you next month. Have a good
Bye,
one.
everyone. Thank you.